Wait. I'm thinking I have thought of so many leaders at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be about age. Right now, I know a lot of people are looking for connection. You can have somebody who might not be within your age bracket or a young person, but then you feel that they're speaking to your needs and they have their ideologies in mind. So I think that's what a lot of young people are looking at. But again, not many young people are going to vote. So they are not the ones who are going to determine this election. So it's going to be people who are above 35 who determine who is going to lead this country, because only 39.8% of the 22.1 million voters are young people. So they are going to be caring about age. It's very difficult for people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s to invest in the leadership of a youth, because they feel perhaps they might need experience, but there are also the outlier cases where young people have made it through because of community support. So unfortunately, in this election, for sure, majority of those who are going to be elected are not going to be youthful candidates.
Why do you think the young people are not going to determine the vote?
They're only 39.8%, and the turnout, if it's even high, it will be 30%. And so that means majority of the voters are not going to be young.
You don't think?
And even in terms of the the just recently released InfoTrack report, it shows 27 to 45-year-olds are the most affected by the high cost of living. And it only leaves like a very small fragment that is below 35. And this means that if I am most affected, because we are looking at a young person who's just out of college, starting work, a young person who's trying to establish a small family, a young person who's trying to establish a business, and the 27 to 45-year-olds fall within that bracket. So they are more likely to look at the nexus between their voting and their life, as opposed to those who are still, under the cover of parents providing for them. And I feel for me, this is why the age thing might not really come out strongly in this particular election. So
what will then, Newton?
Yes.
If it's not the age thing, what are they going to be looking for?
First of all, I want to debunk whatever Nerima has said, that the 39.1% of the vote of the young people, 39.8% of the young people's vote is not going to
tilt the
scale of election. I want to disagree with her because, one, at this point is when young people are feeling that this is the time we are going to participate in this election. And it will be shock to them when they say young people are not going to participate. Previously we have had politics of promise. But right now, as we look at the politics of this country right now, we are looking politics of commitment. And you can look at the presidential candidates that are frontrunners. There are those who are here to just give the promise, and there are those who are giving commitment. And young people want to associate themselves with the presidential candidates who are offering commitment. We are from those politics of promises previously. And it is going to be shock to many because, one, the young people are the ones who are most disfranchised in this year's election. And moving forward, they are going to make their voice so clear that next election or next leadership cycle, people are not going to take as young people for granted. Because honestly, you can't say 8 million votes. As you say, 39.8%.
Out of 22 million.
Out of 22 million. You just need the 8 million to lead this country. And young people know the power. Exactly. Right. And this time round, they are going to come out to vote. I can tell you. I can tell you.
Let's speak on facts, not feelings.
Yes.
I'd like to remind Newton that in 2017, we were at 51%
Thank you.
in terms of registered youth voters. Right now, we're speaking about a dismal 39%, and a very huge drop in terms of registration of voters of young people. And remember, even the commission targeted to do 6 million new voters, and it hit, I think, a little over 2.5 million.
Yeah, they missed it by about 4.5.
Exactly. Yes. So we have a whole population of young people who are not invested as much in our political processes, because even their participation is not formal in the political space.
Trevor, I'm really shocked. I am seated with young people like myself, and they are here castigating aspersions about young people not going to vote.
Oh.
But
As young leaders, we are supposed to say, why are young people not going to vote?
But are they going to vote?
Yes, they are going to vote this time round. Because one, I will...
itself missed the targets. Okay, so there were 6 million, they missed by 4.5 million. So even if they wanted to vote now, they can't. That's the first fact.
No, we are talking about the 8 million. We are talking about
the
8 million who are registered. No, this time around they are going to turn out.
Wow.
Because their future depends on this.
You
get me? And she has said clearly Wilkista here said very clearly that the people who have been affected by the high cost of living are not the elderly, are the people between the ages of 27 to 45. Who are the majority are the people from between 27 and 35 because, one, they don't have employment. And you see, this time round, they are making a decision between a capital-intensive presidential candidate or ideas or policies and a labor-intensive presidential candidate. And if you look at the two frontrunners, there is one who is offering to continue the infrastructure development policies of Uhuru Kenyatta. And there's another one who is pushing for the labor-intensive market for these unemployed young people. And the young people will say, why don't we go and vote for the labor-intensive policies that are being led by William Samoei Ruto? Because he is offering that solution that young people want.
And you're basing this on the manifestos?
Yes, on the manifestos and on the commitments that the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate has offered the young people of this country. Maybe on their end, if they feel that the young people are not going to vote, it is because they have not given the young people the reason to go and vote. And from where we sit as Kenya Kwanza, we have given the young people a reason to go and vote. They want jobs. Quality jobs. We don't want to see a gun manufacturing company being set up with 4 billion and yet it is only offering employment to 100. But if we don't go to vote as young people, then we are going to continue those kinds of policies. But if we go and vote, then we are changing the narrative and saying that as young people, we want labor-intensive policies that are going to inspire these young people to get employment.
So, Nerima, why do you think the young people will not vote?
I'm not saying that they will not vote. You know, I think we need to be clear about what I said.
Yes.
There's a decline on the number of young people who can vote. Because of that decline, their representation on the voter registry has declined. Out of the 22 million people who can vote, only 8 million are youth. They are not 50% of the voting bloc, like what Wilkista said in 2017. There has been a decline of 5.2%.
Yes.
We need to recognize that decline. Number two, anytime it comes to voting, there is never a 100% turnout.
That is true.
Absolutely never. And that's why I'm saying, out of your 8 million, you will not get 8 million. There will be a decline. Not everyone will make it to the polling station, unfortunately, for some reason or the other. So we have to think statistically and be factual. And that's why I'm saying, according to the youth who can vote, they are a small number. And out of that small number, a smaller number will actually vote on that day. That is the reality. I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I'm not saying that the turnout will be low and all that. I wish that they registered. Because let me tell you for a fact, when Honorable Martha Karua said she was going to be standing as DP, the number of young women who messaged us asking if they can register, and it was closed. I can tell you, they want to register. Now, these are the youth we are talking about. They are feeling the pain. They didn't feel there's someone representing them. Now they felt someone has come. But it's late. For me,
you see, Trevor,
from Wilkista on this. So is this a failure on the parties, on the system itself, or is it the young people failing themselves? Because now, like what Nerima is saying, that they wanted to register now, because all of a sudden now they have a reason. So who failed them? Did they fail themselves, or is it these teams that took so long, still just haggling on who to be where, that they didn't give people a reason to vote, or even take a voter's card?
And I feel the political space has been inducing apathy. And this is why young people have found themselves on that side where, as Nerima mentioned earlier, people are, they relate more with personalities or, guys who they feel represent them as opposed to the rhetoric that has been in place for some time. So for young people who are first of all, they have a lot of disinformation, because this is fast-tracked by the social platforms where young people originally or ordinarily find as spaces where they engage. Looking at that disinformation alone on some of the social platforms, and remember, Kenya has over 80% in terms of internet penetration. So you're speaking about a lot of people getting disinformed in these spaces. The political mudslinging, because young people don't relate with the way there are tiffs between politicians. They want to hear, what do you want to do for us? They want to hear, how am I going to pay my help? They want to hear, is help a grant, is help a loan? They want to hear social protection or the capitalist kind of ideologies that are happening. Because what they are looking at is, where are the opportunities? So if they don't see the opportunities, they don't relate with that. And remember, and it's very true, there's a conversation on Facebook that came from Twitter of a young man saying, I'm a university student leader, and I have here with me 200 young women who want to register to vote. And that whole process had been closed. And they wanted to register to vote because they had seen a Martha Karua candidacy on the ballot. And they were not looking at it from an Azimio perspective. It was a Martha Karua candidacy on the presidential ticket. So there's a truth to people relating more with leaders that they feel are going to represent them or represent their needs in terms of what their candidature represents. And over and above that, in terms of inducing apathy, there's also disinformation, which I've spoken about, and the lack of information trickle down. Look at IBC when it's doing its work in terms of voter education and the whole civic engagement. Is everyone really feeling like IBC is getting to me? Of course, they've done a lot in terms of bringing forward the SIGs in terms of the Youth Coordinating Committee, the Women Coordinating Committee, the PWD Coordinating Committee. But still, there's an element of people feeling that we are not getting information from IBC. In as much as there are banners, there are billboards, there's messaging on matatus, there's messaging on social media, there's advertisements on TV, but we still don't feel like there are people that are being reached. And remember also that recently, I think there's a report that said in terms of public trust in IBC, it's 60%. So there's a whole 40% of people who don't feel the kind of trust in the electoral management body that then are left out of the conversation when you're looking at their participation within the electoral process, and more so for young people showing up to vote.
We'll talk about IBC in just a bit. But Nerima, this then means what Wilkista is saying, that the young people are still voting on personalities rather than the issues. Because if all of a sudden now they wanted to register when it was closed because of the Martha Karua addition, then it means for them it was never really about the issues, it was about the personalities.
No, it's a little bit on the issues, but maybe not quite digging deeper in terms of solutions or policy solutions or ideologies. I think that they are listening to what particular coalitions are promising because, like we've mentioned, the high cost of living, people are looking at what are they going to say differently in terms of solving it. But the personality aspect comes in terms of looking at a person's record. That's one thing that I can say has shifted over the last 10 years because of our constitution and evolution. So classic example, MCA position, one of the hardest positions to get re-elected because people actually have first-hand experience with, engaging their MCA. So if someone doesn't perform well, people will not vote you back in. Yeah, and so that shows you that, yes, youth are looking at personality, but they also see, can this person actually carry through with some of the promises that they're making? So when they saw certain individuals now being placed on the ticket, they felt, okay, because of their record, they have a very firm stance. Perhaps this is somebody that can actually follow through because also of their character based on principalities. So I think that's something that youth are still sort of weighing and seeing. I do believe they care about the economy and the situations around them, but then whether they investigate some of this information, I'm glad that I see media debunking some of the myths with the manifestos, saying whether it's factual or false, and that's very, very key because people can make all sorts of promises, and they're just impossible to follow through with.
Yeah. Newton, the young people you speak to, for them, is it about the issues of the personalities? Because at first you mentioned the issue of age, then you came back to the issue of the agenda that is being tabled.
Yes. From the angle I see it, is simple. Young people are looking at issues. They're looking at commitment. And you see, I'm so glad that my two sisters here are confirming that, one, those people who are not going to vote in this election, those young people who are not going to vote, are the ones who missed out in the registration process. And you have heard them say they wanted to be registered because they believed in the Martha Karua inclusion in the presidential candidate. Because one, Trevor, it is factual. And I like what Nerima is saying. Whatever, the youth she's claiming that are not going to vote are the youth who did not take their time to register based on the issues that we are going through as young people. But those who saw and interrogated the issues we are going through of high cost of living, of unemployment, they went and registered. And that is why we are saying, if they think that young people are not going to vote, these 8 million that they are saying are not going to vote, these 8 million who registered because of the issues that they had interrogated before are going to come and vote. And 8 million is not a number to joke with. If they are talking about the 200 who wanted to register because of this particular personality, that is their own challenges. But on our side where we sit, we know and we understand that those young people who share in the dreams or in the aspiration of our candidature, Kenya Kwanza, they registered to vote. And these are the 8 million young people that are going to turn up to vote for Kenya Kwanza come August 9th. Okay. Simple.
I see Wilkista shaking her head there.
No, it is the fact. Their youth did not register.
Okay.
Our youth registered, and that is the 8 million. So the 61% or the 61%
so 4.5 million.
Yes, exactly. Are the other factions youth, but the 8 million young people who registered are for Kenya Kwanza youth, and they're going to vote on that coming day.
You know, we are speaking about youth as if, I mean, we are all youth. I don't know